Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Building an Action Plan into 30, 60 and 90-day goals webinar. Thank you all very much for joining us. My name is Stuart Kendall. I'm joined here by our Director and CEO, Paul Pratt. We're going to run through a few items today about the best way to approach goal setting in your business.
Very good. Good to be here, Stu, and thanks for those that have signed up. Let's kick off with the guide, Stewie.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Today's agenda. We're going to go through a bit of a recap of our last session. We're going to go through the how to start with the end in mind when it comes to goal setting, touch on SMART goals and how to set those, and then laying out your 30, 60 and 90-day action plan. And hopefully at the end, we'll have some time for some questions. Okay. Presenters today, myself, Stuart Kendall, one of the senior advisors here at Pursuit, and Paul Pratt, the director and CE. So I'll hand over to you, Paul, for a bit of a recap of what we went through last time.
No worries. Thanks, Stewie, and thanks everyone that's signed up. And appreciate you taking the time out and your busy schedule to hear from Stuart and I this morning. So those that joined us a couple of weeks ago, we touched on just having a look at things and putting them into perspective with what's been happening in the last few months. Assessing whether you had a plan or on some ideas around putting a plan in place, and then the next step about taking action to delivering on that plan. So I know I challenged a couple of people post that contacted us from the session about what they were going to do in the next 14 days and had some really good feedback there. So now we want to hone down about how we actually then build sort of that 90-day action to achieve our goals. So first of all, let's start in with the end in mind, Stewie. I'll let you set the scene for this one, if you could, please.
Yeah, so starting with the end in mind, it's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people, and it's just about having that clear vision of what you want to achieve before you start any kind of process. Whether it's setting a budget and figuring out what the bottom line needs to be first, or having that clear distinction of what an end project looks like, it's the best way to be effective and the best way to figure out what you actually need to do to get a project off the ground. So the number one thing in this for me is it's behavior really influences your results. All right. So if you set good behaviors early and hold yourself accountable to the actions you need to focus on to achieve this goal, it's a lot easier to break down what you need to do and when you need to do it. It's always best to focus on those things you really can control rather than the things you can't control. Really try and prioritize the things that you want to tick off. So Paul, with multiple projects on the go at multiple times, he's going to break down best way to turn a 12-month goal into 30, 60 and 90-day goals for you.
Thanks, Stewie. And for those online that have got questions, we're happy to take them as we go through, and if we feel they're appropriate to answer the questions during the presentation, we will. And if we think it's more appropriate to deal with them at the end, we'll go through those questions then. So breaking down sort of like most businesses should, and if you haven't, you should have a 12-month plan. And that might have been thrown off kilter a little bit with what's occurred over the last few months, but we are seeing things return to what I would say is a new normal and the like. And now it is time, like we touched on last fortnight, to spend time working on your business, not just in your business. So what we do here at Pursuit is you start with sort of the 12-month projects that you've got in your business, and we shared with the 10 hats. Stuart, if you'd like to bring up the 10 hats there, if we could, just to refresh people that were on last time. We use this filter, so with the hats in our business, and we have specific leaders wearing those hats. And what they do is they have projects that work on under each of those hats that are annual outcomes that we want to achieve. Having those as an annual outcome, then without an actual plan and a system in place to achieve those, will not be the most effective use of our time. So what we do is we have regular times in our calendars on a daily basis to work on projects in our business. So we build plans towards achieving those 12-month goals and break them down into sort of quarterly projects. And then from there, identify sort of weekly and monthly actions that you need to do to achieve those plans, so to achieve those goals over the 12 months. So, for example, Megan, my EA, works tirelessly on my calendar planning in advance, and we've got a plan for the next months around time to work on the business, on the projects that we need to do. So we don't get stuck in the detail all the time. And if you don't plan your calendar out in advance, know what you're doing next week, you become really reactive. So really key point in here is make sure you're being proactive with the use of your time. It is your time, and use it in the most effective manner in that space. So goals without a system really aren't going to be achieved. So if you think about it like this, is your system's what you input into achieving it, and the goals are the outcomes of the work you put in place. So without a system and habits and actions, the goals become really hard to achieve. And this just isn't relevant to business situations, it's relevant to personal situations as well. So you might be wanting to, if I tie that to a personal goal, so you might have a personal goal that you want to be able to run non-stop for 30 minutes. That could be someone's goal. But without putting in place some habits and actions and a system to achieve that goal would not be achieved. So you start with some really simple things and go, okay, let's make sure when I go to bed, I've got my shoes put out and my clothes out to go for a run. I'm going to just go for a run for 1 minute. And then I've created that time in my calendar. And so you make incremental steps towards achieving that goal. So if you think about it with that filter in a personal aspect, the same thing applies in a business project or a business goal that you're trying to achieve. Without those baby steps and step-by-step process, it just wouldn't happen. And we do this across the board, so not just with internal projects, we also do this with client work as well. So we have a plan in place with our client work, Stu. And would you like to chat about what we do on a weekly basis, a daily basis as a team, sort of in our team huddle around, so we know that we're collaborating together to work through our client-specific work around the 5 Ws and the like that we do?
Yeah, certainly. So at the start of every week, we set 5 weekly tasks that we need to achieve. That's across our clients and across the internal projects we need to do. Then every day we break down how to achieve those 5 weekly tasks into 3 daily goals we want to tick off. And that way, in the morning, everyone knows what everyone's trying to achieve. Everyone can have input on if those daily plans are going to help them and the rest of the business achieve what they have to. And then we check in at the end of the day as well to see how we went against those goals. The really, really effective way for us to know what we're doing, hold ourselves accountable to the actions we planned at the start of the day, and week by week get through what we need to get through.
And Stu, these haven't stopped since we started working remotely back in March when these restrictions come into place and the like. I would say that, in my opinion, they've become more effective by doing them remotely and using technology to run those meetings.
Yeah, the remote, I suppose, logins and having everyone face-to-face twice a day has been a real key driver in getting those projects and I suppose the achievable outcomes that we want to achieve every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, and on that too, we're also using meeting rhythms for internal meetings in our business as well. So with those 10 hats on the screen there, Monday mornings, myself as the CEO of the business are meeting with the leaders of our business at 8 a.m. every Monday morning to talk about what's on for the week, how we're going against the projects, what assistance do we need to do. And then we have our other meeting rhythms. So then we have an all-team meeting at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning to set up the week for everyone. And then there's specific meetings, either weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, around those hats and around the projects that we're working on. All that's planned out in advance too. So those calendars are populated in advance to give us the time that's put aside to make sure that we're working on it with a clear project plan in place. Now, goals. Stu, let's chat about goals. I'm tipping anyone that's dealt with a goal would know the acronym SMART. So when we talk about goals and how having a system and action habits in place to take steps towards achieving those goals, I was taught this in high school, I would say, and it just resonates with me as well, and from back then, about being really smart about the goals you set. So if you haven't seen this before, capture it. If you have seen it before, I think it's a great reminder about when you set goals, make sure they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and they're time-driven. So use that to help build the plan, so the actions and habits that you need to do to deliver on your goals there. So just wanted to remind people about that. Stu, you got anything you wanted to add in the SMART goal space?
No, I just use this as a filter for all the projects I need to achieve, and I'll just flick over to the next slide. We can't really see with us in the way, but we've got a template we use that outlines what a project is, when the start date is, and the dates that we need to tick off each of those 30, 60, 90-day goals. And then we use that SMART filter to determine, yes, we've ticked off that it's specific enough, it's measurable, etc., etc. So I always go with first things first in this instance. So, all right, take out the time that I know that I'm not going to be available to work on the project and work backwards from there. So let's say if I had a goal, a project that started today, I know that I've got, my wife's got a baby due in about 8 weeks' time. My 60-day goal might be just get a good night's sleep. And then I know that I've got to adjust my 30 and 90-day goals around that. That's the way I feel, Group.
Yeah. Stu, that's a couple of quotes of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that you've thrown in. So starting with first things first as well, which is a great point. You've got to look after yourself, and even more importantly, look after yourself in these times. Like, business owners are under a lot of pressure at the minute through a lot of things they can't control. So make sure you do focus on yourself and the things that you can control. So putting first things first and putting a plan in place there makes a lot of sense. And yeah, Stu's obviously working towards that family deadline, which takes priority to over anything work related. And the same should apply for you guys. Like, yourself and your family and your friends must come first. And if you don't create that plan to have time to do that, you'll get all consumed with work and you won't be effective. You might think you're busy, and you might be busy, but are you being effective? Exactly. So, Stu, you're saying we can share that with the guys if anyone wants that, or how about we just send it out to everyone that's joined today, and happy for those people that have joined to share that with others as well, which would be pretty cool to do, and share it out there and ask them to come along to the next session in a couple of weeks' time.
Exactly. And hopefully everyone will go out and fill that template in and have a rough idea that what, if the project for them starts today, what their business looks like on the 8th of September.
Stu, you reckon if it'd be okay if people do fill that out, they can share it with us and we can check it out and give them some feedback and some pointers?
Yep. Accountability is always key in any kind of project. So we're more than happy to take a look over the goals and the due dates and keep you on track.
Yeah. Making sure you're setting yourself up to succeed both personally and business-wise is really important, guys.
Perfect.
Thanks, Stuart.
No worries. Right.
So if we jump over to the next slide here, and this is sort of be able to summarise things up, and then happy to take some questions from the attendees.
Yep. Right, so what can we do now? We've got a couple of different options here for us. First up is a do-it-yourself option. So take our template, fill that template in, and populate it, keep yourself working along. We're going to have some one-to-many sessions coming along where we can get a group of people in the room and help those people put together a plan themselves. And then we've also got some one-on-one time available that we can spend with people and build that up.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so that one-to-many thing, we haven't done those before, but they're a work in progress. So it's something new that we've been workshopping, and I suppose you call it a bit of a project that we've got a plan in place and some actions we're taking. So we're hoping to go live with those probably late July, early August at this stage, if we stick to our project plan. Getting like-minded people in a room or on a screen to help them build the actions and goals to help drive their business.
Exactly.
Now, Stu, did you want to field the questions, or we'll wait and see who throws what questions at us, and we'll take turns?
The questions here. We got one here from Stu Martin. Yes, we'll give you a call about that one today, Stu. How we're travelling with your stuff. But it looks like at the moment nothing else has come through.
Nothing else come through. So I suppose let's recap then on what we've covered off on, Stu. So we sit there and go, make sure we start with the end in mind. Make sure that you are accountable and give yourself the time to set up to succeed. So it's that time management piece and bits and pieces. And you just reminded me before this about what a system means. There, can you remember the acronym for a system? I think that's a very powerful message to leave with.
Yeah, system, save yourself time, energy, and money.
And behaviour influences results. So whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, the behaviours are what drive the results that you'll get. So be responsible, take responsibility and ownership for your actions, and control the things you can control. So big thank you to Stewie for jumping on today and joining us for a chat, as well as for everyone that signed up to be part of today's session. Now, in 2 weeks' time, we will be doing this again. It'll be Stu and one of our other senior advisors, John Paul, around things budgeting. So around that finance hat in your business. So around budgeting and bits and pieces there. So thanks again for everyone attending, and look forward to, or Stu does, look forward to catching you up in 12 weeks' time.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great one. Cheers.
See ya.